How's it going, everyone? Today I've got a new video on a topic I haven't heard people talk about yet. How would one Space Marine fare against the entire Playtime co-factory from Poppy Playtime? I haven't seen any videos on this topic just yet on YouTube, so I guess I'm the first one. I've been into Poppy Playtime as of late, like a lot, ever since Chapter 5 came out. I mean, Chapter 5 sucked, but I've just been into it. I've been learning about, I haven't played it of course, but I've been learning about the lore and stuff. So I thought, why not make a video on how would one Space Marine fare against the entire factory. Before we get into this, if I may be as so kind to ask, please do like the video, share, and subscribe, as that brings up my self-esteem and I like feeling good about myself, so I would very much appreciate that. Anyway, let's get into the video. Sorry. So, I decided on a firstborn Imperial Fist for this scenario. I didn't want to do an Ultramarine, as Ultramarines are boring. I also didn't want to do a Blood Angel, as Blood Angels are jet troopers and the game takes place underground. I also didn't want to do a Salamander because they use primarily fire-based weapons, so I decided on an Imperial Fist. I also didn't want to use a Primaris Marine, as the only reason I didn't use a Primaris Marine is because I just don't like drawing Primaris Marines. So on the thumbnail I drew a Firstborn, and that's the only reason why I'm using Firstborn. So now let's look at his loadout. So let's just say that this guy is just a standard Imperial Fist Firstborn Battle Brother. He's going to be wearing a Mark 7 Aquila pattern of Space Marine armor. Along with that, I'll have a Godwin pattern bolt gun, a bolt pistol, and a combat knife with 4 grenades, 2 frags, 2 cracks, and say 150 rounds for the bolt gun and 80 rounds for the bolt pistol. For anyone here who doesn't know 40k lore, a standard bolt gun shoots a .75 caliber round of a self-propelled rocket. Being hit by one of these rounds is not going to be much better than being hit straight on with a grenade launcher, and he's got 230 rounds of these, one of them being shot from a fully automatic rifle. Even if he somehow ran out of ammo, he still have his combat knife as backup, which is made out of adamantium, which means it's not gonna snap or anything. And even if it does snap, he'd still have his fists as final backup. Space Marines are also really fucking strong too. They can just rip limbs off just like they're fucking nothing. If he was unarmed, it wouldn't really change much, aside from range. The only areas he'd genuinely probably struggle on and get stuck on would be some of the puzzles, as the puzzles you'd require the grab pack, and he'd absolutely not pick up the grab pack, as the grab pack is an unsanctioned piece of technology, meaning it would be tech heresy, so he would not be able to pick it up as, well, he's a loyalist Marine. Loyalists don't fuck with tech heresy. He'd probably just find his way around some of these puzzles though, at some point. I doubt he'd actually get like stuck somewhere and unable to continue. Due to being an Imperial Fist, he'd probably be a lot more patient and time-consuming with how he'd explore the factory, unlike someone like a Space Wolf, for example. A Space Wolf would probably just like bum rush his way through the factory, where an Imperial Fist would be more careful, would be more observant, would probably fortify certain areas and be more careful with new rooms he entered. Also, due to his nature as a son of Dorn, he'd be a lot less merciful than somebody like a Salamander or Blood Angel, for example, which I'll talk about more later. That should be everything on the Space Marine. Now let's actually talk about the mission itself, the actual purging of the factory. So, how would one Space Marine fare against the entire Playtime co-factory? Well, to put it simply, he's gonna walk through the factory like it's nothing. There's virtually nothing in the factory that's gonna be able to damage an Astartes armor. Space Marine armor is made out of a ceramic metal called ceramite, and ceramite is really fucking strong. It can take multiple Space Marine grade bolter rounds before being breached, and there's not going to be much in the factory, in a fucking toy factory, that'll be able to get through that sort of armor plating. The prototype might be able to damage it, and in fairness, the prototype is going to be his biggest threat down there, but unfortunately for the prototype, he's just not going to last long enough to deal like actual lethal damage to the Space Marine. The prototype would try his best to like put up as best of a fight as he could, but with the amount of bolter fire coming his way, he just would not be able to last. And even if he didn't have the bolter, the Space Marine could just grab him and snap him clean in half. So he's just not going to last long enough to do any sort of real damage. In terms of the amount of threats down there, I counted around 57 friendly and hostile NPCs in the game. Yeah, I know that the game is technically not finished, but the game was meant to end with Chapter 5. Let's say that our Space Marine doesn't get any resupply and is stuck at 230 bolter rounds. Most of these enemies are going to take 1 to 7 bolter rounds to die, so that would put our median at 4. 57 times 4 gives us 228 bolter rounds used. Note that this does not include anything that he'll punch, stomp, strangle, use grenades on, use his combat knife on. If he only uses his guns, he can finish the entire factory with maybe like 2, maybe more, maybe less shots left over. Throughout the factory, he'd probably proceed in a very cautious and very tactical way, maybe fortify certain areas that he'd use as temporary bases and such like that, as an Imperial Fist would. He'd also probably watch all the VHS tapes that he found around the factory, as that's more information and more knowledge that he could use to learn more about the factory and the toys that are down here. After entering the factory, he'd probably immediately kill Huggy and also kill Poppy. However, if he was a different chapter like the Salamanders, he'd probably let Poppy live, as Poppy comes off as human. So he'd probably see her as human, but he's not Salamander, he's Imperial Fist, so he probably would kill Poppy. The factory would begin to panic after he killed Mommy, as Mommy is one of the more important characters. So after he completely rips her apart, the factory would start to panic a little bit. But only after killing and completely dismembering and ripping apart Catnap would the entire factory begin to panic, like hard panic. The prototype would have to try and unite the toys against the Space Marine and recruit characters like Dr. Sawyer, Doughy, Yarnaby, Boxy Boo, and others and form a sort of alliance. And of course, due to the sheer strength of a Space Marine, this alliance would not be enough, and the Space Marine would pretty much massacre the entire factory and walk out like it was nothing. The Space Marine wins by an overwhelming amount. So that covers pretty much everything. Something small but a little funny that I didn't mention is that the toys might actually mistaken him as a toy, as Space Marines kind of look like action figures, which it's not important at all, but it's a little funny, I thought I'd mention it. But yeah, that's the full video. I hope everyone enjoyed. I certainly had a good time putting the video together. I know it's been a few weeks since I last uploaded, and a few months since my last like full-length video. I don't really know what I'm gonna upload for my next video. I don't really have any ideas. I'm really hoping for some Dark Ages DLC news sometime soon, but I don't know, we'll see. If anyone has any ideas, just give me some in the comments. But yeah, that's all for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.